welcome to A Wider World, the show on ability. I'm Elizabeth Kelly. Today we're going to explore the resilience of the human spirit and how sometimes what seems on the surface to be a tragedy leads to discoveries and programs that benefit many people. Our first story takes us to Nashville, Tennessee, where we will meet the extraordinary Gracie Rosenberger. In 1983, a devastating car accident resulted in the amputation of both of Gracie's legs. Now, Gracie is one to make lemonade out of life's lemons. So Gracie and her husband Peter realized there was a need for quality prosthetics, and that understanding led them to found Standing with Hope, an evangelical nonprofit organization dedicated to addressing the needs of amputees in developing countries. Let's take a look.
It began with a catastrophic car accident in 1983. Gracie Rosenberger was alive, but every bone in her body from the waist down was broken. Today, after 27 years, more than 70 operations, and over $9 million in medical bills, Gracie and her husband Peter are running one of the most important prosthetic limb outreach ministries in the country, Standing with Hope.
Standing with Hope was started in 2002, and it was the vision of my wife, Gracie. After she became a double amputee, she was actually watching a documentary about Princess Diana and the work she was doing in Southeast Asia. And she was in the hospital. She had just walked her first steps that day, and she was still drenched with sweat. You know, it was a very tough experience for her. So she's resting, and she's flipping through the television. She saw this documentary that Princess Diana was doing, and she saw these people that now look like her, that were wearing the similar type of equipment, and how needy they were. And here she was in this wonderful hospital in America and getting great care, and she saw that there's a real need, there's an opportunity here. And she pulled back the sheets, and she looked down, and she saw a bloody bandage on her left stump that had just been amputated days earlier. The right one had been amputated 4 years ago, 4 years prior to that. And she offered her life to God at that point and said, look, if I can serve, if you can use my broken and mangled body to reach these people, this is what I want to do. For 12 years, prior to that point, from her wreck, the mangled legs had dictated the course of her life. Now, the absence of her legs would do the same thing, which was kind of interesting and really ironic. And we struggled through a lot of things, the healing process, getting her up and going, and then when the time was right, the door opened, we launched Standing with Hope. And no kidding, we went to Africa. I would have never dreamed it, but I thought the whole way on the plane for my first trip over to West Africa, and I was thinking, this is surreal. We're going to Africa. I've never been outside the United States, and we're going to Africa, and we're going to put legs on people that we don't know. And it was the most amazing experience, single-handedly, of my life. And they say that once you get the dust on your sandals from Africa, it calls you back. And I truly believe that. And I saw such an opportunity to not only to put limbs on folks and give them a gift of walking, but to connect with people and to build relationships, strategic partnerships, because our model is not to just treat patients. We don't just go find amputees off the street and treat them. We train the technicians there on how to do this so that they can care for their own people. I don't want to put 1,000 limbs on people. I want to teach them to do it. I want to equip them to do it. And that's the mission of our organization, equipping others to stand with hope in Christ. And we're very much of a Christian-based organization. But we treat people from all kinds of faith or no faith at all. We don't make them become Christians to do it. We simply do this out of the gratitude of what we've been given. And we want to be able to impart that to the best of our abilities, and that's how it started.
On the advice of a friend who was with the International Wheelchair Ministry, Standing with Hope's first outreach was to Ghana, an impoverished West African country.
Just kind of on blind faith, went to Ghana. We partnered along with one of their teams, and it was the absolute right decision to do. And we started a friendship and a partnership with the government of Ghana that has been remarkable. And you hear these horror stories about working with governments of developing countries and so forth. And all I can say is, from our standpoint, what we've done has been nothing short of remarkable. They have been wonderful to work with, and their facility there was rudimentary. I mean, but they had some skill level, and we could go in and just you know, grab the load with them and bear some of that burden and teach them, train them, equip them, and help set them up so that they can treat their own people. And it's been a wonderful partnership, and now we're expanding into Togo. Now we've got patients coming in from Nigeria and other places to Accra where we're working, and then we're expanding into other parts of Ghana, and but we're hubbing right now in Accra.
With the support of the Ghana government, Standing with Hope now had to win over the local population, the same people they were trying to help.
At first, and this is the sad part, at first they were distrustful of Americans in general because they said Americans come in, throw a lot of dust in the air, and then leave. And that really broke my heart because I thought, you know, America is so much better than that. And we are a magnificently generous country. And it's, Gracie and I knew at that point that we had a mandate that we must go back on a regular basis and keep going and keep going and keep going. We wanted to make sure they knew we were there for the long haul, because when you take on an amputee, you can't just show up and do a one-time thing. You've got to take that on or build an infrastructure that will care for that patient for the rest of their life. I mean, that's it. I mean, because if it's a child, that child is going to need a new limb within a year. If it's an adult, an active adult, the foot may break or something, and you replace the foot. But who's going to do it? If we're not there, who's going to do it? And once we got past that first hump where they realized that we're coming back and we're putting more stuff in it, and we're not leaving, we're not walking away from this, then we built up that great trust and friendship, and then they really welcomed us with open arms.
It's because of that long-term commitment to their patients that Standing with Hope can draw some of the best prosthetists available.
One of the reasons we've been able to get such good prosthetists is because they know of the lifetime commitment that we're making here, and they know that their work will be sustained. Nobody wants to go over there and just, well, I let that kid walk for 3 months kind of thing. I mean, nobody wants to do that. They really want to have a mechanism in place that this is a sustainable legacy type work, and so that's what we do.
With the huge demand in Ghana and other countries for prosthetics, finding qualified prosthetists can prove to be quite a challenge.
The commitment we ask for our prosthetists, it depends on the trip size. I've never taken more than a 2-week at a time trip. We try to keep them, we try to be sensitive with their vacation schedules from their work. They have a busy practice. One of the things we try to do is that they don't even have to bring tools if they don't want to. We want to have a fully functional lab. They go up, they're ready to go to work. Now, when they get there, they're going to work. They're going to work hard, but they love it. I mean, they truly love it. They'll work harder than they do all year long in the States in that 1 week. But it's at the end of the day, they're grimy and dirty and covered with plaster and everything else, and grinning from ear to ear because they know that they did something, and the people that they're treating are truly so needy and very grateful. And you're also seeing the same patients over and over for review and follow-up care, so they build those friendships and relationships. And you see a little boy who could go to school now and things like that. So they come over usually for a week to 10 days at a time, and then they can go on as many trips as they want. They raise their own support, and we try to work with them on that to help them get that word out there. We get folks to help sponsor them to go. Some of them will pay their own way. Some of them will send out missionary support type letters, and so there's lots of different ways we do it.
Doing the work that's needed in a developing country like Ghana can prove to be quite a challenge as well.
A lot of times people will use an oven to make sockets. Well, that's wonderful if the oven works, or if you have an oven, but and if the oven doesn't work, who's going to repair it kind of thing. So we try to do things that I can get, if a vacuum pump messes up that I'm making a socket with, I can get another one to them pretty quickly. And we do that. We use recycled cast saws or whatever. I just sent over a big pallet of stuff, and I had 3 cast saws in there. We've got a generator over there, so we can go with 110 or 220. We try to prepare for all these things, but we boiled this thing down to its simplest element. But now we are putting on high quality sockets. A lot of people don't understand what prosthetics are really about. They think, oh, if we can get this cheap foot and it's affordable in developing countries, then these $5 feet or whatever, and God bless them for it. They need it. We need everything, but you can also take a toilet plunger, turn it upside down, and use duct tape and call that a prosthesis too. Gracie's policy as a bilateral amputee herself is, I'm not going to put a leg on somebody I'm not willing to wear. And their conditions over there are very harsh. The patients walk a lot, so they're hard on these limbs, and they need something that will hold up. So we have committed to doing acrylic resin carbon fiber overlay sockets. That's what Gracie wears. These are very, very high-tech high performance sockets. The lightweight, it's Kevlar. That's what we're using here. This is what soldiers get at Walter Reed when they come out of the war and they're getting a limb at Walter Reed. They're using carbon fiber sockets, acrylic resin, and I think we're probably the only ones in Africa doing that. But you can't destroy those things, and they're lightweight, they're comfortable, and it's great for the patient. Now the patient may outgrow them, and they will. The limb will change shapes and so forth over time. Gracie's does, but it will serve that patient well. We design it to last that patient, an adult patient, for at least 7 years. We want our prosthetists to be thinking on their feet. They do a lot with their hands and not with computers. I mean, it's a real old school approach to it, but you have to, because you never know if you're going to have electricity that day. We've had to assemble one guy's arms. We don't do a whole lot of arms. We try to focus on legs, but we did arms for a boy who was from Nigeria. His father had emailed me from an internet cafe for almost a year solid, every month. His son was electrocuted and lost both hands. And so he's 21 years old now, and he's eating like a dog. He's having to hold his bowl like that. It was just horrific. And so we're building this guy's arms, but the electricity had curfew cut out, and so we had finished all the stuff we needed for electrical equipment, but we couldn't see. So we moved him out in the parking lot of the clinic there, and in the parking lot, we put him in front of the van and so we were assembling arms by headlights, and my nephew was holding a video camera so that the spotlight could show on the little tiny parts. I had one prosthetist on each arm in the headlights of a van in West Africa. I think we're the only ones that probably have ever done that. But at the end of the day, I mean, when we finished, here we are. It's dark time. I held out my room key for my hotel. He reached out, the cables pulled, opened the hook, and then he put it over the thing. He relaxed his arm, and it grabbed it, and he pulled it out of my hands. So he was able to now pick up a fork. He could feed himself. He could, take care of himself. And but we had to do it by the headlights of a van. So we need guys that don't get rattled, that can adapt and have a little bit of horse sense, been around a while and doing it. And we've got good team leaders. And our senior prosthetist is Jim McElhaney, and he is my wife's personal prosthetist. And he's an amputee himself, and he's been around for 40 plus years as a prosthetist. Really knows his business, and so he's helped me set the model up for what we do.
Standing with Hope is a multifaceted organization. In addition to the overseas outreach, they do have a stateside component. In the States, we have an unusual opportunity that the United States military has offered Gracie and I to interact with a lot of wounded soldiers coming back. They saw in her, particularly the women coming back as amputees, which we've never really dealt with as a country before, but the enemy we face does not discriminate, and that's sad, but that's the kind of enemy that our country is facing, is that they don't care who they hurt as long as they hurt. And we've been honored to be up there many times. Gracie sang for the groundbreaking ceremony of the Military Advanced Training Center that all these guys are working out with at Walter Reed. We speak at a lot of disability-related conferences and churches, schools, and all kinds of things. But all of that really is geared towards the flagship of what we do, which is the outreach overseas with prosthetics. So everything kind of is driven by that, but people want Gracie to come and share her story, and every now and then they let me show up too. And it is quite a story. In fact, Gracie and Peter have just finished a book detailing their journey from Gracie's accident through creating and running Standing with Hope.
It's been a remarkable journey, but a wonderful journey. It's painful. There are a lot of things in there that were hard to relive and hard to put down, but it's real life. Our friend Jeff Foxworthy is writing the preface for it, and he and I talked about it a lot before, and he said, this is real life. This is where people are, and they need to hear from somebody who's been there, been down such horrific roads, but credible enough to speak to so many others who are hurting and say, look, I've been here, I know this, and I found God to be faithful even more than this. And so that's the reason we're writing this book. There are people who are hurting and wondering, is there something wrong with me? Did God abandon me? Why? And there's a lot of tough questions out there that people ask when faced with brutal realities. And Gracie's suffering, and by extension, I believe mine too, in my own unique walk with her, I believe is credible enough now to speak to people who are hurting, that they'll give us a fair shake and say, at least I think you guys can understand enough of what I'm dealing with. And we're honored to be able to speak into those painful places with people.
The book is called Gracie, Standing with Hope, and is available on the website www.standingwithhope.com. It's a wonderful read and worthy of a place in your collection.